Good morning, Seven Fish. I am the Multifarious fisherman. We are indoors today. We are in the COVID quarantine situation that I mentioned in a previous video. Today's video is just familiarize you with some terminology, some techniques for fly casting, and hopefully you're enjoying the content, and thanks for joining us. Let's get into it. What we're trying to do here is give you tips to make you dangerous. What I thought we'd make a video about today is a couple of things about fly casting that Three and I were discussing when we were out. Just some nomenclature, some terminology so that you are familiar. There's a technique when you're casting that will help you be more accurate and less likely to spook fish that we refer to as false casting. False casting does a couple of things. First, if you're throwing a dry fly, it can help you dry that fly so that when you put it back on the water it will float again, because that fly will eventually over time start to draw water and not float. The process of moving the fly back and forth helps push the water out and helps get air through it to help dissipate the water that's in there, so that the next time you set it down it will stay on top a little longer. If you've been retrieving a fly line in, when you go to cast you don't have as much line out, well, you can't just throw it out like you can with a spinning rod or a bait caster. So the concept is, as you come back you let a little line slide through, you come forward you let a little line slide through, and that process is called shooting, where you let the line slip, and you can see with Three's line here that it's shortening as she's moving. She's not letting a lot of line through, but she is shooting a little bit of line out to get that line length back to where she wants that cast to go. Another purpose that it serves, which is a big benefit for fly casters over traditional tackle fishermen, is I can move that line through the air and get the exact amount I want. I can actually see it lay out over my fish and tell how far it's going. So you can kind of gauge how far that cast is going with the action of moving the fly rod. When she's retrieving the line in, that process is referred to as stripping, pulling the line in, retrieving the lure. With streamers you do a lot of stripping. With dry flies you don't typically do a ton of stripping. With nymphs a lot of times you're stripping just to keep up with the fly, especially in current as that fly is coming down. You want to keep a relatively tight line to the fly, so you may do some retrieving of that line just to keep a short straight piece of line. By keeping that line relatively direct from your rod tip to the fly, when you set you're pulling on it immediately. If you allow slack in there, obviously you're never going to get a hook set on a fish. Hopefully you've enjoyed our fly fishing content. It's been a little bit fly fishing intensive lately, but we'll probably get more significantly into the ice content from here on out. But we've been putting out some content. I had a good year, caught some fish. Thank you again. Go ahead and pick it up, you're short enough. I didn't mean you're short, I meant the line short. So when you're casting that, tell us what you're doing. You're letting that line out a little as you cast?
Yeah.
That's why you're casting several times?
Yes.
What do you call that?
I don't remember.
That's okay. Technically, the act is called false casting, but when you let line out, it's called shooting.
Shooting. What one is stripping? No, that's just bringing
Stripping
it
is,
in.
yeah, when you bring it in.
What?